You're watching Telecom TV from the ETSI Summit on 5G, and I'm joined now by Duncan, who is Director of the European Utilities Telecom Council. Duncan, thanks for joining us on Telecom TV. How are utilities deploying their new smart infrastructures?
Well, certainly in Europe, we've basically got a mandate for rolling out smart metering. So therefore, it's not a question of is it commercially sensible to do or is it viable to do. Many are being mandated to do so. And they've had to do it via an economic cash return on investment. So about 16 out of the 28 member states are rolling out smart metering. And that's a good example of how smart is being deployed in Europe. We've got a whole range of other smart activities going on, which are clearly all interrelated, but it's not all joined up at the moment.
And how will 5G help?
Already utilities are using sort of 2.5G, 3G, 4G solutions. So this is just seen as another step forward in terms of the wireless infrastructure. But what I think is important about 5G is the view that this is going to be looked at as a whole system. So not just electricity on its own or gas on its own, but you have transport, healthcare, all of these different verticals sharing the ability of the service to provide for each of those needs.
Will 5G replace legacy cellular connections and encourage economies of scale?
I don't think that will happen. I think there's a whole life cycle that goes on behind this, and first of all it'll have to be proved in pilot rollouts, and then there'll be, I expect, scalability issues which will need to be checked, and finally they will replace the old generation of technologies. But these usually take in the order of years, not months, to achieve.
By and large, utilities have a lot of legacy infrastructure, and some of their assets have been installed for decades. This seems at odds with the more rapid cycle of the ICT sector.
So the utilities have this challenge continuously of an asset base like transformers, cables, underground wires, etc., overhead wires, which are very long life, so around 40 years plus. And you have the ICT, which actually looks after them, the visibility and controls them, rotating in a much faster life cycle. And of course, that's a cost. That is a high cost if you have to start replacing things rapidly over time. Also, there's finite costs in wireless technology, such as spectrum is a finite resource, and as you would have seen from a lot of the auctions for 4G, there's a lot of money changes hands for in those respects. So that return on investment has to be recovered, and of course the person who's likely to pay that is the customer at the end of the line. So again, utilities have to balance all of these different solutions. Do they use their own solutions for private wire radio, or do they use commercially available radios, and that's or commercially available carriers? And that's a question that can only be done on a case-by-case basis, really.
Is the business model now flipping over from telcos building a system and offering it to verticals to one where verticals are now approaching telcos and saying this is the functionality that we require?
Well, I'd say that universally business models are flopping in terms of the flip-flop sort of approach, because we're seeing now things like crowdfunding, crowdsourcing, social media, driving a whole range of policy which was never there before. And therefore governments are challenged with keeping up with the change and the requirements, and out of that regulation is challenged with keeping up, and out of that standards are then challenged. So we have this virtuous circle whereby the whole of the industry at the moment is being transformed rather than going forward in an incremental way.
So 5G is only a part of the picture.
Absolutely. I mean, 5G is a means to an end. It's not an end in its own right. So therefore, 5G provides an option for a service. It is not necessarily going to be universally used for all of its communications. There's fibre, there's Wi-Fi, there's a whole range of different solutions that are used. So 5G is part of the jigsaw, but a very important part of the jigsaw if it delivers for the energy vertical.
Duncan, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.